You know, some people enjoy composing their own music, chord by chord, and others are happiest when they come across that one perfect song. Work is not a lot different than that. Whether you prefer building your own workflow or using a pre-made template, with Monday.com, you and the team can work in a way that's comfortable for everyone. Tap the banner to go to Monday.com and build your own amazing workflow, or find an awesome template. No judgment.
Welcome to the RuPaul's Drag Race Recap Show for Season 11, Episode 13, titled Reunion. My name is Joe Betance, and I am joined, as always, by one bored co-host. From the podcast pod is my co-pilot. Please say...
I'm so into voguing right now.
to Taylor, the Latte Boy. Hello, Taylor, the Latte Boy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm dreading talking about this episode. I was waiting for anything to happen for this episode.
I was panicked watching this episode going, what are we going to talk about?
I know. That said, we have so much to talk about.
Do we?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, we'll do it right after. Oh, no, we don't have to get a break right here. Let's just get right. We take a break. 1 second in, we just take a break.
Are we Howard Stern, where we introduce ourselves and suddenly start doing commercials?
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's just start the show. This week, the girls get back together to discuss the highs and lows of the season. RuPaul moderates as Brooke and Vanjie spill the tea on their relationship. Raja tries to apologize. Akuria deflects any blame from herself. Ariel's wigs come up again. Something about Kahana and Mercedes, I don't know. Other things, I don't know. Who knows? Taylor the Latte Boy, name one thing you liked about this episode.
That it was over? When they finally went to where it said the World of Wonder thing spiraled, I said under my breath, worst reunion ever.
It was.
Yeah. I can sum up, I can save us all a lot of time, considering I'm all about time management. Right now, I can explain the entire episode. Okay. Ru would introduce a clip. They would show the clip. She'd ask the queen about it. The queen would then apologize. They'd move on to the next clip.
Yeah.
That was the
entire... In the case of Akuria, she did not apologize.
No. And I will say the one thing that I am going to assume, again, I know no spoilers. I am going to assume Akuria does not get the crown because they seemed extra shady towards Akuria. There were multiple times, one of which you brought up in first response, where she's like, no, Raja asked me what was going on and I had to explain to her, and they immediately went to the clip that showed that was not the case. And then I feel like at the end, somebody said something. We haven't gotten the episode yet from iTunes, but because I made a note to myself, I was going to watch it again. Where there was something that was said to her, or there was something that she said that I thought that's not a way they want to present whoever the next drag superstar is. So I'm going to assume at this point she doesn't make it to the top two, or at the very least doesn't get the crown.
Everyone should know I'm just stone-faced staring at
No, I know you're stone-faced, and I'm actually looking at me in the screen instead of you because I don't want to know one way or the other. But it was not strong. I did not know who half of them were. I forgot who half of them were when they were. I kept going, who dat? Yeah. It felt. This speaks to what I have been saying all season, is that these girls now know what to expect in the real world post show. And they are trying to navigate that. They're trying to, as you have said on numerous episodes, produce themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody on the reunion played it extra safe. Everybody saw what happened to the Vixen last year. And I think everybody, much like what you have told me about, how you went from Sasha to Asia and then from Asia to these lip syncs, while you haven't given me any details, you said there isn't an Asia butterfly moment because everybody kind of, did their own thing. I feel like we are watching the Valentina to the Vixen to the transition as far as the reunion goes. And they are scared that they're going to say anything or present themselves in any way that looks bad. Because at this point, this is really their first opportunity to come back where they can't produce themselves after being away from the set for a year, where they know that things that are going to be said or actions that they're going to be they can be manipulated in any way, shape, or form by somebody they no longer have control over. So I felt like watching them all do like just the safe mealy mouth of where they, there was little bickering with one possible exception. We only really saw one person's claws come out at one point, and that was Akira. And even then, she immediately retracted. Once there's a moment, and I know that I'm jumping ahead, but whatever. There's a moment when they start coming for Akira, where Akira goes from being a beautiful queen to a messy man for about half a second, where she makes a face that I'm like, ooh, that's Maury, that's a man. And then she immediately pulled back because I think she realized if I go full fangs out, this is all anybody's going to talk about.
It just seemed like, were you? How did you feel when RuPaul stopped the whole Akira plastique drama? Let's actually attack this chronologically. So the show starts, and the whole first act, and I'm really mad I can't find my notes from the episode for some reason, but the whole first act starts with Vanjie, and it's just Vanjie.
Yeah, it's just Vanjie. And let me say, for the record, Vanjie's glow up, I loved it. I thought Vanjie was serving 1988 Lisa realness, and I loved every second of it.
All right.
So I was glad for that. But she was also, her presentation of everything was it was 15 minutes of Vanjie doing when she walked off the runway last episode. Yeah. It was a lot of ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba, and by the end of it, I was kind of a little annoyed with her. But
it's all stuff we've dealt with before. We've seen enough Vanjie throughout the season. It's just like a very Vanjie heavy episode, especially the whole first act was Vanjie. What did you think about now? You know what's so funny is you and I were both using DirecTV Now, and when it came back, it skipped the whole part where she answered the question about her and Brooke.
And that didn't skip for me.
Yeah,
it didn't skip for me. You and I were complaining about it, but Wiggate skipped for me, so I have no idea what happened to Wiggate.
Oh, Wiggate. I saw the whole thing. So what did Brooke? Because I feel Vanjie gave a reason why Brooke broke up with her. I think I read it online that Brooke wanted to kiss other boys.
Yeah, it's something where, Brooke had mentioned, I believe, on the show that she's never really had a boyfriend before. She never dated anybody. And I think that once she got to a place of where she was realizing her and Vanjie were getting serious, she was making it sound like, well, this is it. This is the rest of my life. This could potentially be the rest of my life. And I think she wanted to sow her oats.
Yeah, so especially after the thing. But then wouldn't you think, and they didn't really address this, I get the sense, that it did seem then Brooke then used Vanjie for the very reason the girls thought she was using Vanjie for. Because the girls
that may very well be the case. I don't know. You could tell kind of watching Vanjie through that interaction that Vanjie still seems very smitten, for lack of a better word, with Brooke. And Brooke, I think, going to that place of perfection, where she always has to be perfection, did not necessarily allow herself to express emotions. And at one point, Rue said something along the lines of, somebody said to Vanjie, you look like you're somebody who wears your heart on her sleeve. To which Brooke immediately said, and I love that about you. And Vanjie, under her breath, said, please don't say that. And it was this half-second moment that I was like, "Oh, somebody still got feelings."
See, I didn't see that part. I got to see that again.
It's a very real. It felt like a very real moment in a lot of fabrication and a lot of that. And she said it quick and under her breath. Please don't say that.
Well, but I think
it made me sad for Vanjie.
It supports what I was saying earlier, that because then Brooke says, "Well, there are a lot of people who were just like." Saying outright lies that were, do you realize we have this on video? But we're like, Brooke's like, we try to keep it under wraps, but in the workroom, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you were always the one going for little butterfly kisses with Vanjie. not that I saw, not that they showed. It seemed like Brooke was always the one wanting to stake her claim in the workroom that she and Vanjie were a thing, even though they said that they only could do it in the workroom. So I don't know. It seems very, very calculated and very, very. I mean, obviously, because of Vanjie's popularity, Brooke would know that doing this with Vanjie would get her a lot of airtime.
Yeah, I mean, I think Akira, you mentioned clout, that she gets the clout that comes along with that, and this. We can talk about this towards the end of when we're talking about the reunion, but I feel like there's been a shift in who people want to win. I feel like it was very Brooke for a long time, and now I'm seeing it shift to Evie. And I feel like the last night's episode didn't necessarily help that, because I feel like Brooke was focused on perfection. She looked beautiful. She kind of looked plastic. Whereas I think Evie has kind of the transition for Evie. She's shown her emotion to where she's more relatable and more kooky. And I just, from what I've seen in social media and what I've seen on Twitter and what I've seen, I feel like people are starting to put love towards Evie. Yeah.
Well, because she's sort of the kooky, smelly underdog. Now, let me ask you this question, moving on. What did you think about the whole Raja O'Hara sort of confrontation? That was the next place they went after Vanjie.
I think it was necessary. I think that Raja, as soon as she said, "I'm sorry you feel that way," I'm glad that the other queens called her on that and said that's not an apology. That's not recognizing, that you said something that hurt, particularly Evie's feelings. I did like Scarlett's, whatever you're doing with her, focus that this way, because you've got some things to say to me too. I did appreciate Scarlett saying that. And I feel like she kind of understands what we're talking about as far as that, where maybe she allowed herself to get a little too in her head as far as the confessionals go, and didn't realize that they were going to come back to bite her in the ass like they did. This is a situation in which I necessarily feel as though she's redeemed herself. She did definitely show some vulnerability, and I think she recognizes what she's done, but the half-ass apology that she gave didn't necessarily do her favors. If she had come on and said, "I've given a lot of thought," watching that was very difficult for me to do, and recognizing some of the hurtful things that I said, are not cool, and I want to apologize for making such offensive statements.
Well, but I think what she did allow us to see, that she is evolving, even if she's struggling with it. Even the part where she said, like, it's hard for me when they called her on the apology, because she wanted to go to that defensive place and to make herself vulnerable, but at least she acknowledged the moment.
I agree. And I think that in her moment, what we ended up doing was we got to see an opportunity for Plastique to shine.
Yeah.
I remember saying early on in the season that for somebody to be as young as she is, she shows a lot of maturity. And I think that the fact when she said at one point, when you were having that moment on Untucked, I recognized that wasn't about me. Most 21-year-olds would have popped off on her and it would have got messy. And that moment, again, I do really appreciate a lot about Plastique. That moment was wonderful to see that she showed enough maturity and showed enough reservation to go, I'm not going to get in a screaming match with her right now, because it's a futile endeavor.
Yeah. Now, then we moved on to the Akuria Plastique drama. Basically, the accusation was leveled that Akuria was basically the shit stirrer of season 11. First of all, do you agree with that, Taylor?
Yes.
And they had the receipts to prove it, but Akuria, she probably didn't know, but despite receipts being shown all over the place, continued to deny that it was her fault or that she had any part in this at all. What was your take on that whole exchange? Finally, by the way, RuPaul it was bickering back and forth between Plastique and Akuria, and RuPaul just shut it down and moved on. But what was your
Akuria
thoughts?
was saying the same thing over and over and over again, because she realized she didn't have a leg to stand on. And I think that is one of those where, as we have talked about with this show, this is the, this is the Valentina, but that doesn't go along with my fantasy. I think that if they, much like we saw with Silky this season, much like we've seen with other queens, if I just keep saying it, it will make it real. This is the world we live in now.
Yeah.
Where if somebody gets in front of a camera and they just keep saying the same thing over and over again, eventually people will believe it. And I think that Akira thought, if I just keep saying Raja asked me what they were talking about, then everybody will believe it. I don't think she was expecting them to immediately go to, because up to that point, anytime they showed clips, you could see they were all watching the clips.
Yeah, there were these packages made,
Yeah, it was packaged already. This was something in which they didn't do that, where it just cut away and there was no little box showing the queen's reactions. It just kind of went to where they were like, the producers were going, fuck you, that's not what happened. Look, we can show you what happened right here.
Then next after that, we had, I believe, there was something with Kahana and Mercedes. I don't know. I don't have my notes in front of me. I don't know what the fuck I did with them. But I think I'm hitting the big points here. There was something with Kahana and Mercedes. Did you understand what that was about?
Well, one, I forgot Kahana was there.
Yeah.
Like, where all of a sudden I'm like, who's that? And then I was
Kahana
like,
forgot she was there. She was like, what am I doing here? Oh.
And then they showed Honey Davenport. I kept looking at the Honey Davenport going, I have no idea who that queen is. The first time they showed Sugar, I forgot Sugar Cane was part of this.
Well, now we're getting to old age.
Well, my old age or her old age?
Yours, both.
Well, the Kahana, I read a thing on the AV Club this morning about the fact that, one of the highlight emotional moments, I think, was Mercedes talking about her sisters and how much her sisters supported her, even though it sounds like there's other members of her family that don't support her in her drag endeavors. So where she's having this moment of happiness and then Kahana immediately goes for the jugular at her. Like, because Kahana's like, this is the only drama that I've been a part of. Yeah. Because I was out 2 episodes in, so this is all I got. This is my moment to shine. It was what we would call a misstep, because I think it just made Kahana look not cute at all, let alone her outfit. But
did you understand what she was talking about? It had something to do with, I think what I've gathered is Mercedes is on the East Coast and
Mercedes is in Detroit.
Well, whatever. She's in a different time zone and posted basically about the lip sync that she had won on social media. Kahana reached out and said, listen, I'm out here in Vegas. This is bad because I want people that, my viewing party to think I have a chance or something like that. This is what I'm gathering. And Mercedes like, oh, sorry. And apologized, took it down. But then once all the feed had aired, she reposted the video. And then Kahana was still pissed that she posted the video. Which it was like, well, I thought we were friends because I lost. And it seemed like you were happy that we lost. It was super, super weird. I have no idea what she was talking about. It seemed like.
It was 14-year-old girl, much like with Wiggate and all the other stuff. It was very 14-year-old girl. I want to say something. And even though I don't really have anything important to say, I'm just going to talk.
Now, in terms of Wiggate, you really didn't miss much. It's just more of Ariel. There were receipts, though, of Ariel saying the same thing, that she didn't left them there. She didn't really leave them plastique. But then RuPaul brings up a tweet where she's like, but right here, and we talked about it on the show, either on the rumor mill or here, where Ariel had said, I left these wigs for plastique. And so then Ariel's like, well, humana, people were attacking, and then it got really confusing. It made no sense. Basically, it was Ariel was just caught in her web of lies.
Right.
And
but then you have a situation like Raja, who just got done saying, I'm learning to grow, I'm learning to be a better person, then throws one of the wigs on the floor instead of Ariel. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. And it was just, that was like about the part that I came back at, where everybody's screaming and yelling and throwing that. There was also, I think you missed, one of the acts was talking about Nina and Scarlett.
Yeah.
So, and it was cool to see. It was always cool to see Nina get some love. I have asked friend of my show, Brian Gregory, is going to DragCon this weekend, and he said, "Do you want any swag?" And I said, "Yes, I want a Nina West T-shirt." Ugh. So,
not to the Nina West. No, I'm talking about going to DragCon.
So I didn't think about it until she posted a bunch of her shirts online. And
the reason
like,
Taylor said my friend is because Brian Gregory hates me.
That's why I said friend of my show.
Yeah.
But
Brian Gregory can suck a dick. Okay. He can't he?
I don't know. I'm assuming.
Anyway. Okay. Finally, let's just touch on the Scarlett stuff. Did you have any thoughts on everything that's going on with Scarlett and Brooke? And Brooke said that, she didn't like Scarlett. And the first response, I was talking about how I think there was a little shade from the editors because Brooke has explained on social media that she likes Scarlett now, and then she's gotten to know her. And
also, they showed Raja apologizing to Brooke and Plastique, but not Scarlett.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're kind of waiting for her to do that, and they never showed that. It just was a lot. It was just like kind of a weird, boring, bland, safe episgoing even like at the end where they said, say something nice about each of the four, instead of what they usually do where they say, who do you think's going to get the crown, or who do you think deserves the crown? Mm-hmm. They didn't even do that because I think they're afraid of blowback. They're afraid of the queens who don't vote for one of the four to get blowback from stuff. It just, it concerns me for future seasons if this is the way the contestants are going to be.
All right, Taylor. Well, let me ask you this question. Do you have any final thoughts on this reunion episode? Because I have a theory, a weird theory I want to share with you.
I think that some of the queens have never looked better, and I thought some of the queens have never looked worse.
Mm-hmm.
So, in particular, I loved Plastique's makeup and hair, and even her outfit to a degree. Mm-hmm. Nina's outfit was kind of okay. I like the sock monkey thing, which you couldn't really see. That's something else. I don't understand the staging. Like some of the queens, you couldn't even see them because the other people were sitting in front of them. I find it hard to believe they couldn't have shifted chairs in some way to make it to where everybody's looks were presentable. Mm-hmm. Like Suga, you didn't really see Sugar Cane. Honey Davenport, I have no idea what she wore. You could only see her from the neck up. Mm-hmm. But then I loved Brooke's look. I liked Silky's look. I liked the drum majorette look. Mm-hmm. I am trying to think of trying to go through really fast who I liked. Ariel looked a hot busted mess. I don't know. It just wasn't. I've enjoyed other reunions far much more. I enjoyed season 9's reunion a lot. Seasons 9, they were happy to get into it. They were happy to argue. This season 10, a lot of it was Vixen related, which I did not like because I was never a fan of the Vixen. But a lot of the other stuff, I feel like we got a lot out of the psychology of particularly Asia O'Hara. That was a good reunion. This one, it was Melba toast. It was just not a good episode.
Well, here's what I feel, Taylor. I feel to some degree the show has lost its way. Right? It's like someone snapped their fingers, okay, and all the good producers vanished. Much like Thanos, right, from the Avengers. We need to change that. I think there's only one way to change that, Taylor.
I agree with you.
I think we need to go back in time to a moment when the show was great. Do you want to do that with me?
I think that's an amazing thing to do.
All right. Well, we're going to do that. This is a big surprise. The audience doesn't know we're doing this, Taylor. We're going to do that right after this. Hey, everyone. Before you actually go to the surprise, I'm just going to tell you what the surprise is.
We're going to spoil the surprise.
We're spoiling the surprise because there were some people who were concerned about stuff like that. Taylor and I decided because there wasn't a lot to say about the reunion, we wanted to give you the show that you're used to experiencing, the full show. So we figured, let's go back in time and recap an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race that we've never done before.
It's a different mood in the podcasting chat room doing this one than it has been for most of at least the second half of season 11.
Yeah, you're gonna we actually go, oh, we like this episode, blah 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 blah. So if you want to watch the episode first, okay, the one we're gonna recap is season 3, episode 9, titled "Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Style." That's what we're gonna do right now.
This is Amy Poehler. My new movie, Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, is coming to theaters June 14th, and it's making me feel joy and sadness and anger, definitely some disgust, and I think a little fear. But I'm also feeling these new emotions like anxiety, embarrassment, envy, and ennui.
It's what you call the boredom.
Okay, that one was weird. It's going to be the feel everything movie of the summer. Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Only in theaters June 14th. Get tickets now.
Welcome to the RuPaul's Drag Race Recap Show for Season 3, Episode 9, titled Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Style. My name is Joe Betance, and I am joined, as always, by one patriotic co-host. From the podcast pod is my co-pilot. Please say...
Only in America now, a woman like me have a freaking chorizo!
to Taylor, the Latte Boy. Hello, Taylor, the Latte Boy. How are you?
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Wow, it's 2011. Who would have ever known?
I know, right?
Obama is president. What could ever go wrong?
I've never been more relaxed. I have no anxiety about the world and what's happening around me.
Yeah, everyone's at peace. Everyone loves each other. Oh, but that Donald Trump, man, he keeps bugging Obama for his birth certificate.
I know. But you know what? My boyfriend, Babalu, and I were getting along just fine, and everything should be great. Mm-hmm. And I'm playing with my dog that's still alive.
Oh, I have this really cool student named Cameron.
Oh,
He's really cool. Yeah. He's a cool guy. Anyway, how are you? I'm like shaking, by the way. I know. So nervous.
This is very cool that we're doing this.
Yeah. All right. Very good. There was something I wanted to tell you when we were doing this. I gotta calm down. I don't know why I'm so nervous about this. All right, let's just do this. Here we go. This week, the Heathers and Boogers are tied with 3 per team left in the competition. In the mini challenge, the girls bedazzle some bras. For the main challenge, the girls need to create their own patriotic PSAs to send to troops deployed around the world. On the runway, the girls don their best patriotic couture for special guest judges Cheryl Teagues and Johnny Weir. After making RuPaul laugh, Alex Mateo is named the winner of the challenge, while Carmen Carrera and Yara Sofia are forced to go head-to-head in a lip-sync battle for their lives. After the lip-sync, the girls managed to make Drag Race history by being the first queens to ever receive a double Shantae. Taylor the Latte Boy, name 2 things you liked about the episode and 1 thing you did not.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was too busy listening to Firework by Katy Perry and Rollin' in the Deep by Adele. Yeah. You know what? The song they used was a great party rock anthem by LMAFL.
Is that what came out in 2011?
Those songs were all from 2011.
I mean the current year we're in, are those the songs that...
current songs were Adele, Rollin' in the Deep. The current songs are Adele, Rollin' in the Deep, Katy Perry's Fireworks, Bruno Mars, Just the Way You Are.
By the way, some people are in the Pride 48 chat room are wondering where Daniel is. Daniel is at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
And so he can't be here this week, but he'll be here next week. All right.
With Donna Sugars.
Yeah, Daniel and Donna Sugars and Larry Flick are all at BlizzCon, and they're having a great old time. And I know Donna and I knew Donna and Daniel played World of Wonder, but I didn't know Larry Flick played not World of Wonder. World of Warcraft, but I didn't know Larry Flick did too.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 things I liked about the episode and 1 thing I did not. 2 things. This was a lot of fun to watch this episode and to really kind of just see what used to be versus what is. Not only how far they've come, how far the show has come production wise, but how far back they've gone as far as stuff that we'll get to. Some of the not great stuff. But things that I loved was I loved how much fun Ru seemed to be having this episode. Ru was a completely different person with this episode than she was from what we were just talking about a couple minutes ago. Another thing I loved was Alexis Mateo freaking chorizo. I tried to find me genitals. Everything about that is an iconic moment in the episode, and I was so glad I got to see it. One thing I did not like was I did not care for this Cheryl Tiegs.
Oh, really?
I've never been a Cheryl Tiegs fan. In the world of early 80s supermodels that had their own line at Sears or Kmart and stuff, I was always much more of a Christy Brinkley. Cheryl Tiegs to me always felt like the poor man's Christy Brinkley. And I didn't like her attitude on the judges panel.
Huh. Interesting. All right. Well, here's what I like. I like you. I thought you could tell RuPaul was having so much fun during this episode. It was such a joy to see.
Yes.
My guess is RuPaul must just love doing this show and will forever.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what she does like around seasons 13 and 14.
Yeah. Oh, she'll still be having just as much fun. Also, it's so funny. They should always keep it at an hour. I thought that the show, for them, with a few exceptions, which I'll talk about in a bit, the show seemed very well paced. There were some moments, I will say, and unfortunately, I would suggest that they should go to 90 minutes. The problem is, I don't think the show needs 90 minutes. I feel it needs like an hour 15 or an hour 10, Does that make sense? Like, what I would do if I were them is maybe have the show go a little long and then fill the rest of the time with Untucked, because Untucked doesn't always seem like it needs 30 minutes. I feel you could do a whole show and Untucked in 90.
Yeah.
I think the show needs a little more than an hour, and Untucked doesn't quite need 30 minutes. And I think you could compact it to an hour and a half, and I think it would be fantastic. My one thing I didn't like was, as we know, as I said at the top of the show, that this is the first time in herstory that there's a double Shantae, in the history of the show. The first time there's a double Shantae. I did not think that this lip sync was that good.
I would agree with that.
In fact, if you would have told me it was a double sachet, I would have been okay with that.
Yeah.
I thought, Carmen's for sure gone when she went down the stairs and started like kissing Johnny Weir and like playing with the judges. And then Yara, first doing a song that was in Spanish, did not seem it was that. I don't know. It just seemed very tepid. The whole thing seemed very tepid of people going through the motions.
But I think that also shows how much the girls now feel like, much like we saw we are talking about future seasons as reference.
Yeah,
right?
Okay, everyone, we're done talking like we're pretending it's 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
are we? I'm sorry. Wait a second. I have to DVR American Idol and The Voice and Modern Family right now. So if you give me just a second, I have to take those off my DVR.
Okay, go ahead. I can't tell if you're in 2019 or 2011.
So, but I think much like we're seeing with Sasha at the finale, they're having to constantly up their game. You're seeing more and more. You didn't really see. You only saw death drops every once in a while, and now that's become where you kind of almost wait for the death drops. I feel like back then when they were doing season 3, it was very much of nobody thought this was an option. So I think now that they work harder to get to that either possible double Shantae or to work even harder to kind of press them and press people. Plus, you've also got that this was the episode immediately preceding the Manila Luzon ladies. This is how you lip sync. So that one is never as good as like an amazing lip sync like Manila's was the week before.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think. Look, the looks and the lip syncs have just come a long way. I'll tell you the one thing that hasn't changed. Did you see this Jason J. Carter? He looks exactly the same that he did in season 3.
Yeah, considering that we just saw Sean Morales and then we saw him in this episode, which I'm just like, okay, I remember kind of why people thought he was cute. Like he was definitely he wasn't as quite as daddy trade as he is now. So before everybody knew that he smelled.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on. After Delta's elimination, the Heathers, which is made up of Raja, Carmen, and Manila, are sad to say goodbye to their fellow Heather as Manila sadly wipes away Delta's lipstick mirror message. Meanwhile, the Boogers, which is made up of Shangela, Alexis, and Yara, discuss how they feel left out by the other girls. Taylor, any thoughts on the top of the show here?
My first thought was the difference in the beginning didn't feel quite so manufactured as it does now, where they all walk over to the couch and they kind of talk about, they kind of talk out stuff. There was a little bit of that, but it didn't feel quite so forced as it does. Another thing that I noticed was this was the top 6 of season 3. This was an amazing top 6 for that season. Whereas I'm thinking at this point, if you asked me to name the top 6 of, if you name me as the top 6 of this season, let alone, but season 10, season 10, I don't think I could tell you the top 6 of season 10.
What about top 6 of season 11?
Okay. Now that I had to think about it for a second, whereas this one, I was like, oh my God, I didn't.
Top 6 of season 10. Let me think here. So we know we have Aquaria, Eureka, Cameron, and Asia. I believe I think they all went down in a row, wasn't it? Like then Monet and Monique.
Was that top 6? Monet, Monique? That sounds right.
I feel.
I don't know. Whereas this is one where, I mean, when you look at it, okay, but also with, and maybe it's nostalgia brain in my head. When you look back at that 6 from season 3, you get why every one of them is there. There isn't one that necessarily stands out as what are they still doing there, and that's where they are names that people that still resonate with people. Do you really think Cameron Michaels, people are going to resonate with her 6 seasons from now?
Yeah. No, people don't resonate with her 1 season from now.
Right. So I just feel like watching this was, and it's also important to note, it was 6 queens that were all queens of color, which I don't know that we've seen that since.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I was going back. The last white queen, it was actually a while, because the last white queen to leave was India Farah, which was multiple episodes before. Because before that, it was Delta, who's Mexican.
Right.
And then I believe it was Stacey Lane Matthews, who's black. I remember I had to go all the way back to India Farah to her elimination, to the last white person in the show. Now, I don't usually address the chat room here, but there does seem to be some confusion about what's going on, Taylor.
Yes.
Right? So let me explain it. I was talking to Taylor. We were talking about how there was nothing to talk about with this reunion today. And I said, why don't we actually do, for fun, an old episode that we've never covered? Right. Yeah. And we settled on season 3. And then Taylor had the idea, why don't we do this episode, because it's Memorial Day this weekend in 2019. We're doing this Memorial Day weekend in 2019. And it would be, since it's a patriotic theme, it would sort of fit in with the patriotic theme. So we're actually like, well, let's actually recap an episode that reminds us of why we are fans of RuPaul's Drag Race. And that's all it is, guys, is like, we realized we didn't have enough content for a full show with the reunion. So we said, well, let's have fun and do an old episode. All right?
Yeah. We get that we're a couple of the old guys sitting at the end of the bar talking about the good old days, but we both, and I think I'm speaking for both of us, thoroughly enjoyed watching this episode.
Yeah. Well, I think there's questions about whether we're going to go back to the reunion. No, I have nothing else to say about the reunion. Do you?
No, I don't either. I want to focus on 2011 and the great queens of season 3.
All right, very good. Moving on. Next, RuPaul enters the workroom to announce this week's mini challenge. The girls will bedazzle with some plain bras, and RuPaul will determine the winner. Shangela, I like how they really thought that Larry Flick, Donna Sugars, and Daniel Brewer were all in California for BlizzCon and not here for the show. By the way, I didn't even know Larry Flick until like a year or 2 ago.
It's also important to know that you all start doing the show until season 7.
Yeah. And you didn't come on full time until season 8.
Right.
Anyway. The girls will bedazzle some plain bras and RuPaul will determine the winner. Shangela decides to base her bra on RuPaul, but it makes no sense. Otherwise, every other bra was well done, but the winner was Manila Luzon for her torpedo-inspired bra. Her win brought her extra time during the main challenge. For the main challenge, the girls need to make a public service announcement about why they love the USA. The video will be sent to troops around the globe. In the workroom, Raja struggles with what to say while Carmen disgusts the other Heathers by farting at the table. Meanwhile, Alexis is having a hard time because she has too much to say. The challenge is very personal to her, and she's trying to find the right words to say. Later, Yara runs her idea by both Alexis and Shangela, but they're at a loss as to how to help Yara because her concept is so weird. Over at the Heathers table, Carmen asks the other girls about being American. Raja talks about growing up in Indonesia, and Manila talks about her mother's influence on her. Taylor, your thoughts on all this nonsense that happened?
Jesus, that's like half the episode.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, there really wasn't much to say about the mini challenge or announcing the maxi challenge, so let's just tack it into the workroom.
Okay. All right. Well, I took notes.
All right. Good.
That's why, because I wanted to make sure. So the first thing that stuck, well, I told you the first thing that it was 6 queens of color and that it didn't seem quite as forced as it is now. But when the TV is on and Rue comes on and kind of does her whole thing of, USA is A-okay or whatever it is that she says, she looked like she took a Xanax about a half an hour before. She was super relaxed. She was almost slouching in the chair. You could see the director's chair behind her at one point. Like it was completely different from where they've got her sitting straight up. Yeah. And where it was fun to see that because again, that's an example of how far they've come, yet how far they've gone back at the same time.
Yeah.
The whole thing with Shangela's RuPaul's head where it just kind of looked like corn kernels.
Yeah, what was that?
On the one side, it made no sense at all. I feel like the Manila, like anything with a Wonder Woman reference, I'm all about that. So when she was doing the Wonder Woman, where she was pretending to like shoot bullets from Manila's bra off, and then she made some statement. She made a statement of "You'll have to be faster than that." I feel like that is a reference from the pilot of Wonder Woman. For some reason,
really?
I think it is where she kind of like she often pulls lines from Mommy Dearest, or I feel it is from an episode of the Linda Carter series. Okay. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, I thought that was great. What else? Okay, what's the next thing?
Well, they announced the Maxi Challenge. They had to talk about what they love about the USA.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Okay, going back to the mini challenge for a second. The mini challenge was 5 minutes.
Oh, at most. It was very short.
Where it wasn't these big, long, drawn out. It was where she literally had them parade up one at a time, and she looked at them, and then she picked a winner. I would kill for a mini challenge like that now.
It's so funny because taking notes, my notes were just as long as they are for a regular hour-and-a-half episode now. But like the same amount of content, but it's just so much more concise and so much shorter. Again, sometimes it felt a little rushed. But like not by a half hour's worth. I mean, I felt the mini challenge was about the right length. Go and do this, come back, let me judge the end. The mini challenge was exactly the length you wanted it to be, and it felt good. It felt right. This was not one of the moments that I thought felt rushed.
And I also thought that with the exception of Shangela, they all looked really good.
Yeah.
They all did a really good job of them.
They did actually. I actually put that in the notes. It was hard. I mean, I could see why she picked Manila. It wasn't crazy, but you could have picked any of the other ones except for Shangela, and it would have been a decent pick. They all looked like Raja's looked really good. They all looked really. I was actually very impressed with how well all of them did with such little time and so few materials. I thought it was a really good job.
Yeah.
What did you think about what happened in the workroom with Raja struggling with what to say, and Carmen farts at the table, and Alexis gets into her. She at this point we don't know what it is, but she's at a loss. Not a loss. She's actually struggling to how to fit everything in, and then also this weird discussion about being American.
Well, the section about Carmen farting at the table. I'm not a big fart humor fan.
Neither am I.
That's just kind of that's one of those things that on the rare occasion that I've been around people that have farted in front of me and stuff, there's usually not a lot of humor attached to that. Usually I get really offended by it. So that just was kind of a gross moment, but I'm never been a big Carmen Carrera fan anyway. So that didn't necessarily endear me to her anymore. The one moment that I really talked about as far as an interesting one was Yara versus Shangela and Alexis. I kind of wrote it that where she was looking for help and both of the girls were like, I can't help you right now. I thought that the way that Shangela handled it with where she just kind of said, girl, I need to write right now. I can't help you was done in a way that we don't see anymore, where that could have easily been manipulated and edited for shade. And while it appears that Yara's feelings were a little hurt and she was saying, look, I've helped her in the past. The fact that they didn't necessarily focus on that, they just kind of said, look, I've helped them in the past, but it wasn't made to look like where suddenly Shangela was turning on her. Shangela was just and it wasn't this big dramatic. It was just a girl, I need to work. I'm setting a boundary with you. So I thought that was really good. I also wrote about the hard edits when Rue was walking around and asking, what does it mean for you? I mean, we're going
to get to the table visits.
We haven't gotten that far yet.
No.
Okay. Well, you said so much in one section. I'm not sure where I'm going to. It was, yeah. Okay.
Well, you touched on the table visit. Let's go there. RuPaul entered the workroom to visit each of the girls and ask what they love about America. Raja loves the USA because she can freely do drag. Manila loves the different kinds of foods. Carmen loves that she's free and that she has cousins in the military. Yara's dad is in the Army Reserves, but she doesn't want to talk about it. Shangela's mom was in Desert Storm in Bosnia, and Shangela wants to make the troops smile. And Alexis Mateo loves freedom and dated someone who was sent overseas and hasn't spoken to him since. Now, we're going to do something weird here, because it was a really, 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 really short elimination day. So I want to do elimination day on this segment right here, and then we'll get to everything else. On elimination day, Carmen and Alexis talk about Carmen's Puerto Ricanness, and Yara shares a little bit more about her military dad. Taylor, any thoughts here about elimination day, about everything that went on during the table visits? Any big thoughts here?
Okay, so we are saving the actual performances for later?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I thought the Alexis and the soldier, her talking with Rue, this is, I think, the moment that a lot of people fell in love with Alexis, because it's rare that you see somebody back then. It was rare that you saw somebody that seemed so open and willing to share something so secretive. And it wasn't, to the best of our knowledge, it wasn't done for a story. It wasn't done for a, it wasn't done to gain sympathy points.
Yeah.
I loved how that moment, I think that, while I always kind of liked Alexis, I really remember really liking Alexis after that point in that regards. It is weird that they kind of do elimination day and everything is so.
Yeah. It's not like a big deal.
It felt like it was almost like one day. It was weird.
I get the sense it was filmed in like one or really 2 quick days. I got that sense because they did everything really. RuPaul's in the same outfit for all the major parts.
Yeah. So one thing that I noticed was that when Rue was going around and talking to all of the girls before their presentations, there wasn't the usual of where they'd say something and maybe if it didn't go along where she would just stare and then there would be the shade button. There was not one of them. They had that moment. So again, that was definitely very nice to see. The one thing that really stood out for me during the preparing for the runway was the comments that was talking about Carmen and the Carmen not really necessarily embracing her Spanish heritage, her Puerto Rican heritage. Yeah. And at one point, Alexis says to Carmen, when you're not putting on an act and being yourself, it's difficult to be yourself in front of everybody. And I thought, given what we eventually learned about Carmen, that seemed very foreshadowing as far as Carmen living as a trans woman and her transition and everything. I thought that was something that there was no way they could have known that none of the girls there probably knew that, but that was one of those that we know, in hindsight, we know that now. And that was just a very interesting, I went back and made sure that I wrote down that statement because I thought that was a very interesting tell for what we now know about Carmen.
That was weird. You know, now knowing that, you know, Carmen has a very weird cuckoo relationship with the show and thinks that the show's always thinking about her. It was weird seeing it in better times when she got along with the show and like RuPaul being nice to her. It was sort of weird knowing like, oh, they're going to be an adversarial relationship pretty soon.
Well, it's kind of like when you watch the reunion of season 4 and Willem and RuPaul are sitting together and talking, and you're just like, they hate each other now. That's
I know.
That's so interesting.
You know, as for me, like, you know, there wasn't really as good as the episode was, and it was so, and it was entertaining. There really wasn't much content to really recap or talk about or analyze or discuss. I mean, I will say this: it is a much lighter episode, especially for a top 6, and we're used to getting. But again, because it's only an hour episode, you never feel like your time is being wasted. Like, yeah, it's just fluff, but they move past it really quickly, so you don't even notice it. You know, it's essentially just junk food. It's more of a traditional 2011 Logo reality show. It feels like it doesn't feel like VH1. It feels like the way it was in Logo, and it's very fast paced. And so, like, yeah, there's really not much to discuss in this segment. And the table visits feel very choppy and weird, and maybe I'd let it breathe a little bit more, but it doesn't have that sense of we're trying to choke the girls to get that content out of them. It's just like a check-in. How you doing? What are you doing? That sounds good. Okay, great. Like,
I have a question for you regarding this section.
Yeah.
So do you think at this point, or can you think of a girl that maybe I'm forgetting about? Do you think at this point they would cast a queen that has such difficulty with English with an accent as much as Yara Sofia did at this stage in the game?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because she was at one point they had to put subtitles under her for a couple of sentences. And, you know, I mean, I loved Yara. I thought Yara was great, but I just am curious. Like, I was trying to think while I was watching this, if there's been anybody else that has had that much of a challenge with an accent, Spanish or otherwise. Kenya Michaels, maybe?
Yeah, but she's season 4. Here's my question, actually. Since Valentina, has there been... I mean, I know Cynthia Lee Fontaine, but they brought her back for season 10. But this season, there wasn't like your traditional accented Puerto Rican queen, was there? I guess Mercedes played that role?
Mercedes, yeah, I guess. Okay, see, that's what I'm talking about this season. I've already forgot Mercedes was there.
Yeah, but you're right. It seems like, well, we've always done every season. There's always like one Puerto Rican girl straight up from Puerto Rico.
Well, do you think Vanjie kind of filled that? Not because she's from Puerto Rico. She's actually from here. Is she Puerto Rican? She's Puerto Rican.
No, she's Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
And she's from Florida, right?
Yeah, she's from Tampa. So Alexis Mateo is from St. Pete. Alexis Mateo used to perform at the Hamburger Mary's in Tampa. That was her home bar.
That horrible restaurant. Okay. All right, let's move on. Oh, anyway, the point I was making is, like, imagine now if Yara was like, oh, yeah, my dad's in the Army Reserve, I don't want to talk about it. They would have found a way to, like, dig into it. Oh, my God, the Yara, like, all right, just want to talk about it. They
would have shipped him back to Afghanistan to film a video for him for Untucked to make Yara cry.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the PSA, it's time to film the public service announcements in front of RuPaul and Michelle Visage. Ready or not, the girls have 10 minutes each to film their brief messages. Shangela sings, Carmen poses, Yara struggles with her words, just like I did there. Manila talks about her love for food, Raja poses, and Alexis Mateo delivers one of the most iconic performances in Drag Race history. Now, Taylor, I have Alexis's speech queued up, but before we get to Alexis's, do you have anything to say about the other ones? Oh, and by the way, just assume we're also talking about their final product as well. Like, I'm not going to discuss that later. Let's just talk about the final product, the recording, everything like that. Let's just do that right now.
Okay. Question first that involves with this.
Yeah.
When was the last time that you can remember that Ru actually sat in on the Maxi Challenge?
We know she did it in season 7 for Shakespeare.
That's the last one I can remember.
Empire? Was she there for Ruko's Empire?
I don't think so. I think that was Michelle and Ross or Michelle and Carson.
Yeah, it's either Shakespeare or I'm thinking maybe Ruko's Empire. I'm not sure.
Well, but that kind of goes to the energy level where with this one, particularly with Alexis, she's hysterical at certain parts of this, watching the joy coming off of Alexis. And when you compare that to Shakespeare in season 7 and just how miserable she was by the end of that experience, it's like it's diminishing returns every season as far as and participation in this, because Rue is in this episode a lot.
Yeah.
Between walking around and the maxi challenge, and she seems to be joking more with the girls, and it doesn't seem so forced. And I just was noticing when she was sitting there, we were watching this, I was just remember thinking, like, when was the last time that we saw her actually sitting in a director's chair watching them? And there was no shade for even the ones that weren't doing really good. She was giving constructive criticism. It wasn't just that of where they play the shade rather than her go, okay.
Yeah. She was like rooting for them.
Yeah. Yes, she was rooting for them. It felt very different. I did have thoughts on all of the. I wrote 1 or 2 lines about each of the performances. Do you want me to go over those real quick?
Yeah, everything but Alexis. We're going to analyze Alexis on.
Well, I can tell you what I said for Alexis. You already used it. All I wrote was iconic.
Yeah.
So, I thought, and also this Michelle Visage.
Yeah.
Sitting there in some weird beach cover up with her enormous tits hanging out. She looks sloppy. Okay, that's all I have to say with that.
She's known, it's her first season, and it's widely known she looks horrible the entire season.
Well, and she's also, this is before she started with weight loss and stuff, so she just looks puffy, and she just looks thick.
Yeah.
So I thought Shangela was just okay, but seemed also to take notes when they were giving her constructive criticism. She seemed to be listening. Carmen just looked deflated, and Carmen looked like she didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Yara was crazy. I didn't like Manila's at all. And I'm a huge Manila fan, but I didn't like that. And Raja was just flat while she was talking. Anytime they showed Raja posing, I thought she looked beautiful. But as soon as she had to say anything, it was almost like she was learning to read for the first time. It was not good.
I was actually not very impressed with really any of them. Maybe because they didn't show us enough. And then even the final PSAs, I was like, did they really deliver on the challenge? Like, even Shangela's was okay. Shangela's was decent, right? But Carmen always had that shit look on her face every single time. Like, ugh, why am I even here?
Yeah,
And always, even on the runway, during the lip sync, during this challenge, during any episode, Yara just was having problems with the language. Manila's didn't make sense, and I was actually thinking, like, because there's a part where Manila was humping the Statue of Liberty, or implied that she had sex with the Statue of Liberty. I feel they would have called her on that now. I feel they kind of did, but they didn't address it directly.
Yeah,
because Johnny kind of went after
kind
it.
of offensive.
Yeah. And then Raja's was boring, and then we'll talk about Alexis Mateo's in a little bit. You know what I want to talk about right now, too, before we get too carried away? I'm surprised. We probably should have talked about this at the top of the show. I know you have a hatred for bullies. What was your whole thoughts on this Heathers versus Boogers during the whole episode?
I am glad. Yeah, I'm so glad you asked me this question. No, that's a season 1 quote. I remember not liking that in this season, but it did not seem as forced as, say, season 5 with Rolaska Talks versus Jinx. It felt like it was more evenly. It was almost more like the Sharks versus the Jets versus where it just felt like everybody was picking on one girl. And I also thought that maybe particularly because we watched this episode where it felt like the Heathers were kind of the ones that were not looked at as well as the Boogers were, that because I just had this small slice of it, it didn't bother me. I wasn't triggered as much as I have been going back and watching some of the clips that they occasionally show for season 5, particularly of Roxy versus Jinx. It actually makes me anxious when I watch it. It actually, just because I remember being so mad at Roxy for how she was treating Jinx. But I think I don't know. It's stupid. The whole Heathers thing where they all call each other Heather, and they're all just the gross, quote unquote cool kids.
Yeah, it was really dumb. Meanwhile, this fat pig Delta Work, I don't know why she wasn't a booger. They would have had her be a booger too. They didn't her. All right.
Yeah, mocking people for things is just horrible. But that fat pig Delta Work, man,
All right, let's play Alexis Mateo's speech really quickly, and we'll take a listen to that iconic speech that has so many sound drops in it. Here we go.
Action! It's time for a party. It's a USA American celebration. I met the love of my life. Now he serves in the U.S. military court. Bobby, I want you to come back home, baby.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Just pick it up.
Keep it going.
And even if I was born on the moon,
I was born on the moon.
I will still be in America. Sick me no? Sick me no? This is so corny. I love it. Bam! 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 Get it, babe.
RuPaul, by the way, is getting her life during.
Yes.
I think this is only one of the few times where I've seen RuPaul genuinely, really, really, really laugh.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna get to the chorizo part. Like RuPaul loses it.
Yeah.
Only in America now, a woman like me have a freaking chorizo! Yes, baby! Bam!
Yeah, catch your breath.
Got a cramp, girl?
I'm trying to feel where's my genitals right now.
Yes.
I think right there was nothing Alexis couldn't do that she was not gonna win. You know?
Yeah. No, at that point it was a guarantee. It was a guarantee.
I mean, she made RuPaul laugh so hard. Iconic moment for the show, and I'm glad we've documented it for this show.
The one thing I never, because I've watched that clip a million times. It's been on top 10 moments of all sorts of everything. I never understand why they use the exact same clip for going sickening. No, like back to back.
I don't know either.
It's a weird edit. It's a weird reason that they would do that. I don't know, but
I don't know. Maybe they want to make sure you heard it again because you probably may have glossed over it, so they wanted to play it. Anyway, Taylor, it's time for the looks.
All right.
Now, Taylor, you know that the looks are right there in the document, right? You have to scroll down, but they have the looks.
Oh.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, so look, I even pulled...
I just noticed that. I'm like, what?
The runway music from this season. So Evan Ayres will be very impressed that we're doing that. This is the actual runway music that they use. We didn't actually do that this season, but it's a special episode. All right, do you have those looks pulled up, Taylor?
I am going to in just a second. I am pulling them down. I'm pulling them down as well as the looks.
Yeah. Everyone should know that the category is patriotic drag. The category is patriotic drag.
All right. And I can tell you that the first look that came out, I believe, was oh my God, Manila Luzon, who came out in a flapper outfit with a page boy, and her flapper outfit was actually made of $100 bills. She had a fascinator in her hair that was made of credit cards. She looked amazing. I loved this look. I particularly looked because watching these episodes now that were filmed in standard definition, watching them on an HD screen, there was a lot of shake and go wigs, and a lot of the queens had a hard time with their hairline.
Oh yeah,
their makeup and hairline. So the fact that Manila's look here had bangs helped her a lot with this look. So I gave this look an 8, but I think I'm going to change it to a 9. Looking at pictures of it again.
Yeah, I think it looks fantastic, and I think I'm going to give it a 9 as well.
Okay. The next look that came out was Carmen Carrera. Carmen Carrera came out in a long gown that was white with red and blue stars on it, and she had a red, white, and blue tulle wrapped around her. She had her hair done in victory rolls, and she had great makeup. I would say from the neck up, Carmen was beautiful. I loved her hair. The outfit, very tacky. I thought the fabric looked very Joanne Fabrics this time of year when you go to get the 4th of July stuff to make pillows and that kind of thing. And I wasn't a big fan of the tulle. I love red, white, and blue as a color aesthetic. Like decorations for 4th of July, some of my favorite decorations for the year. So I'm looking forward to that coming up. But this look was not strong. So I gave this look a 7.
Interesting. I thought you would have given it a lower number. I'll give it a 7 as well. I think I agree with you. But it seemed like I didn't think we were going to go that high with the criticisms you had. All right.
Only because I loved her hair. I loved the look of her hair. Her hair and her makeup I thought were flawless.
All right.
Okay. So next up is Alexis. and Alexis is wearing a officer's uniform from the neck up that she has bejeweled and done all sorts of great things to, and has a long blue skirt. She has her hair up through a officer's cap. I get what she was trying to do. I get the aesthetic. It was a little too much. And I also kind of think, I thought I remembered it being illegal to wear a jacket like that in public if you're not an actual officer. So there's part of me that thought that it could have potentially bordered on disrespectful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
so,
I think you're not allowed to wear that. Yeah, I think the guy could get in trouble.
Yeah,
I didn't like the look very much, to be honest with you.
Well, it was too busy. There was too much going on.
The top and bottom are like different dresses. You're right. There's too much going on. I'm not a fan. What did you give it? What number?
I didn't say. I originally said a 6, but I'm actually think I'm going to give it a 5.
I think I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with a 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So next up is Yara. And Yara originally came out in a traditional Puerto Rican dress that I guess is worn during their Independence Day. I thought it was something like that. It was
there was some sort
dress.
Of weird thing that I didn't understand what she was saying. Yeah.
Yes, and then she took that off to reveal a bodysuit that was the Puerto Rican flag. It was okay, but both looks were kind of basic. But I loved the idea behind the traditional garment and the way she was playing with it and that sort of stuff. So in that regards, I give that look a 7, but I gave the suit underneath a 5, which I also get is ironic because I loved Nina West's outfit for the Ohio flag earlier this season on season 11. But this look for me was just sort of like, it was okay. So I guess if you combine them and divide, then it's a 6.
I'm thinking giving them both 6.
Okay.
I'm giving them both 6. I do like her wig, though. I'll say that.
Yes, I thought her wig looked good. It wasn't, but that's what I'm talking about. That these wigs this season or this episode are not. A lot of them look like they barely brushed them.
Yeah, but you have to remember this season is the turning point for the show. Maybe we'll discuss that at the end and what this season means. But this season was the turning point for the show. Before this, the outfits and everything were like a joke. You know, this is the first season that actually treated the fashion part seriously.
Well, but I think we see that with who ends up being in the top 3.
Yeah.
Like, that's where you see the elevation, and that's where you see the queens for season 4 and beyond go, I have to step my pussy up because this isn't going to work. Okay. So next up is Shangela, and Shangela comes out, I think originally like kind of draped in a flag or draped in a red, white, and blue fabric, and she reveals a mini skirt that is white and has red satin as a belt. She clearly has on a shake and go wig, and she's rough looking. For as much as we eventually love Shangela coming back for All Stars 2 and just how we've seen her progress, she looks like a man.
Correction, All Stars 3, but yes.
All Stars 3, I'm sorry. It's not good. I originally wrote a 4, but I was being generous, so I'm going to give this a 3.
I think I'll still give it a 4. But I think when I was looking at them, like, they all kind of look like men. When they were showing the previous Leons, and they were showing them from I'm like, whoa, they all looked really rough in that previous Leon. I was like, that is, wow. I will say the looks have been elevated, even on the worst queens on the show. The looks have been elevated to the nth degree. I'm going to go with a 4 for Shangela here.
Okay. Well, speaking of elevated looks, we have Raja, who comes out in an outfit inspired by Native American wear. It's very couture. It's also a combination of modern with she has leather high boots, and she's wearing a pair of jeans that she's deconstructed with a piece of fabric behind to kind of provide the back of a dress. 10s across the board. I loved this look. This kind of speaks to why Raja eventually, spoiler alert, wins this season. I get now she could never wear something like this due to the threats of cultural appropriation. I get that. But this look is, I think she looks flawless here. She looks amazing. And I totally forgot about this look until she came out and was wowed by it. She gets a 10 for me.
I think at the beginning of All Stars 4, for whatever reason, cultural appropriation came up. And I think this very look came up in the complaints about cultural appropriation. I think it was brought up. So,
Well, I don't care. I think she looks great.
well, look, she still look good. All right, and that is the looks. All right, on the main stage, the judges critique the looks and watch the girls finish the girls finished PSAs. After the deliberations, Alexis Mateo was named the winner of the challenge, while Carmen Carrera and Yara were pitted against each other in a lip-sync battle for their lives. The song, the Spanish version of Mickey by Tony Basil. At the end, RuPaul announced that for the first time in Drag Race history, both girls were told, Shantae, you stay. Taylor the Latte Boy, any final thoughts on this episode? The reason we chose this episode, your thoughts on it in the place of Drag Race history. What are your thoughts here?
Couple things. One, I loved the fact that every girl, there was drama as to whether they were safe or they were up for elimination. Rue dragged it out more.
Yeah,
it was,
you couldn't tell. Like, usually you can tell just by the order she does things. You couldn't this time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun. Even though we knew who won, I couldn't remember who was in the bottom. And there was part of me that thought this was the iconic Karma versus Raja, where they pretty much make out on the floor. But so I was like, oh my God, did we pick the episode where that happens? But it was still fun to watch that. And I wish she would go back to that. But I think now it's just like, you're safe, go to the back. It's, whatever. I also noticed that the whole thing where they were talking about you embracing your Spanish culture, it makes sense now why they focused on that, because the fact that the song was in Spanish. I agree with you that I thought both were fair. Both performances were fair. I also agree with you that they would never let her come up to the table, let alone touch and kiss a judge, which we didn't really talk about Johnny Weir either.
Oh, really? I liked him.
I kind of, as much as I'm not a big Johnny Weir fan, I kind of would like to see him be every once in a while, be like the standard, like, fourth seat. Like, if they can't get Ross and they can't get Carson, at least one episode. Yeah. One episode a season, they bring in Johnny Weir.
Yeah. Everyone should know if you haven't seen the episode. Go ahead.
I kind of feel like they did that with Santino for the first couple of seasons that he was gone, where he came back for one episode.
Yeah.
And I would like to see Johnny Weir do
that horrible Billy B used to do it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Everyone should know that, because if you didn't watch the episode, Johnny Weir was a guest judge, and he had a really good time putting like a funny spin on reading the girls to their faces too, and being pretty accurate and being honest and giving praise, but also giving. I think the judges nowadays are afraid to give any kind of criticism, so they love everything.
Yeah,
for the most
part. And Cheryl Tiegs was boring, but trying to think. I'm looking at my notes really quick. I was exciting, having forgotten that this was a double Shantae. When she said double Shantae, I did actually get excited for a moment. Even though I know how the rest of the season plays off, I was like, oh, we picked a double Shantae for the episode to do.
Yeah.
So it was fun. And it was just a great episode. It was just a really great, fun episode to watch.
It was fun to go back. I mean, I don't know if everybody is going to love that we did this. I will say that it seems to be sort of mixed in the chat room. They seem really confused. I thought this was going to be a slam dunk, Taylor. But anyway, what I will say is that this is a very, I don't know if this is necessarily an important episode. It's an iconic episode for the Alexis part and the double Shantae. But season 3 is a weird tipping point for the show. No one ever talks about it. No one ever reviews it. No one ever sees it. It's not talked about, but it's sort of the fulcrum that the show is based around, in that this is the season where people went like, oh, wait, this could be a serious show. Seasons 1 or 2 were clearly just a reality show as a parody of other reality shows, much like the way Joe Millionaire was. Joe Millionaire was a send-up of The Bachelor. And this, I think this came out around the same time as Joe Millionaire. Or do you remember? Actually, he's my friend now, but who created it? But do you remember this? Remember the show where they made a fake reality show for him to go on? What was that called? Joe Schmo, the Joe Schmo show.
Joe Schmo show, yeah.
Yeah. Same thing. This came out around the same time as the Joe Schmo show as well. and where reality shows had gotten to the point where we were parodying them. And this was, I think, initially supposed to be just sort of a parody of Project Runway and America's Next Top Model. And I think it was that for season 1, was a little more serious for season 2. And then this is the season where they were like, oh, wait, you can do couture. You can do serious drag. You can up your game and step your pussies up. And I think everything that RuPaul's Drag Race is now is based on season 3. Because I think what you see is season 3 goes, okay, we can take this seriously. We can do more. Season 4, Sharon Needles explodes the whole thing, exploding our minds of what drag can be. It doesn't have to be fishy. Which, if you think about it, Raja does too. But Raja,
Raja, I think Raja definitely precurses Sharon as far as showing that it's not just, when I think back on season 2 outfits as far as runway looks to me feel very fashion bug, feel very shit you could buy at the mall, you know, and things that you can modify from the mall. Whereas I think season 4 is, with the exception with season 3, we saw with Raja, and I would say Manila too. Some of her looks are things where you can take drag, and it doesn't just have to be like season 1 is beautiful evening gowns, because a lot of those queens were competition queens. And season 2 was a lot more of where, like, you know, an everyday girl type, you know, I mean, one of the comments is Juju be like, I look like I work at the mall. I know that's an All-Stars reference, but that was kind of the aesthetic. This was where they were moving beyond that. And when you look when, you know, they talk about people who have the same silhouettes now on certain seasons, if you go back and look at every single one of Raja's runway looks, there is not one that looks anything like the other one. And they are all amazing.
Yeah. No, you're right. And this is why this is an important season. I think that, you know, up until, like, gosh, I would say season 7 is when you start getting repeats of former contestants. But up until then, every queen was expanding what the show could be. You know, Sharon expanded it, Jinx expanded it, Bianca expanded it. And then, you know, I'm not saying that Violet or Bob or Sasha or Aquaria are all repeats of former queens, but
I am.
Oh, really?
I think so.
I wouldn't say that any of those queens have expanded the show. Like, oh, now this is more possibilities for more kinds of drag or anything like that. Whereas the first 6 queens for sure did, you know, and then I think Raja is the turning point where she really, it's almost like the egg, and, you know, BB and Tyra are sort of like the egg gestating, but like the egg cracked, and the show, what it is, was born, and the show realized what it could be after that. Any other final thoughts, Taylor?
No, I'm glad we did this episode.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a really good time. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Recap. Be sure to join us this week and every week as we continue to discuss, dissect, and deconstruct each brand new episode of RuPaul's Drag Race. So, for Taylor the Latte Boy and myself... What?
Well, I can't remember. Sashay away until season 12. No, that's wrong. Fuck it. I was going to make a joke until 2012. God damn it. I screwed it up. Sashay away until next week.
Want to share your thoughts about Drag Race? Email us at dragracerecap@gmail.com. For up-to-the-minute news about the show, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Drag Race Recap. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Drag Race Recap. For bonus content and to support the show, head over to patreon.com/Drag Race Recap. Taylor has his own podcast. It's called Pod Is My Co-Pilot, and you can find it at podismycopilot.com or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Taylor on Twitter and Instagram at PIMCTaylor. Follow Joe Betance on Instagram and Twitter at Joe Betance. That's BETANCE. The outro music was written by Lucian Piani and arranged and performed by Alex Lefebvre. You can find Alex Lefebvre on Instagram at Alex Lefebvre Music. To find all of our old episodes, visit our website at dragracerecap.com. You can also find other Afterthought Media shows like Hello Uglies at hellouglies.com and Catching Up at catchinguppodcast.com. Drag Race Recap is an Afterthought Media production.